Hey, what's going on guys? Alex here with TFL Bike. I'm here in Las Vegas at the AIM Expo and I've got a pretty cool video for all you mini moto fans, because in this video we're going to be taking a look at a bike that a lot of people on the internet call a Grom killer. I'm here at the SSR and Benelli booth and here's the bike right here. It's the Benelli TNT135 and there's a lot to go over, so we're going to go through all the specs. But just in case you're wondering why, it's kind of a mix of two brands here. SSR is basically the US distributor for these bikes. So Benelli makes the bike. These are designed in Italy and assembled in China. And right off the bat, you can tell pretty easily this is meant to compete directly with the Grom and the Z125, but the Grom is way more popular, so that's what we're going to be making the comparison to. Now I am going to give you a rundown on all the specs on this mini moto, but first I just want to kind of take a look at the general design of the bike because I think it's a pretty good looking one. So clearly the paint is in this super bright green paint job. And you can get this bike in a few different colors, but I like the look of this paint and it is super metallic. Definitely has a lot of shine to it, even indoors, and I'm sure if you get this under the sun, it's gonna look really good. And there's a lot of contrasting accents on here. The forks are this bright silver, which looks really good against the bright green. The engine cases look to be pretty high quality. I think they look a lot better than the Grom. They look more finished, more premium, versus like the gloss black they do on the Grom engine cases. So I think really good look there. And then you come to the exhaust, and this is my favorite part of the design of this bike. The Grom doesn't have a very good looking exhaust, and this thing is wicked. So not something I would really need to change right from the factory. Maybe for sound I'd want to change it. I don't know how this bike sounds, can't start it indoors, but at least as far as looks go, that is not a bad looking unit at all. I would not be disappointed just leaving that on the bike. You do have LED lighting all the way around, so LED turn signals up front. And this front headlight design reminds me a lot of my street bike. My MT-09 has this kind of quad eye headlight up at the front, and this looks very similar, so pretty big fan of that. And then you come to the instrumentation right here, and you've got an analog Tack, which I think is super, super cool. The new Grom has kind of this little LCD screen that's basically the size of this inner screen right here. And the fact that you get an analog Tack in addition to this instrumentation here on the right side is really cool. And then in the back, the taillight and turn signals are integrated in a really cool way. So taillight right there on the tail of the bike, and then turn signals integrated into either side. And I really like that because it cleans up the rear end of the bike a lot. You still do have this rear fender down here, but you've heard Case and I talk about this a bunch on the channel. We're not particularly big fans of these style of rear fenders, so I'd probably rip that off right away. And the cool part about pulling that off is then you don't need to rework your brake light and your turn signals, since they're all integrated up into the tail. All you need to do is figure out a new way to mount your license plate, so pretty cool. All right, let's start talking about the differences between this and the Honda Grom for a second. And one of the main differences is the engine size. Also, when you compare this to Kawasaki Z125, this has a 135cc engine versus the other two bikes in this class, which have a 125cc engine. Comparing this to the Grom, both are 5-speed transmissions. This used to have the leg up on the Grom because, as you recall, the old Grom was a 4-speed, but this year they brought out the new 5-speed Grom. So pretty even on that front, but you do get an extra 10 cubic centimeters with the Benelli here. Another big difference between this Benelli TNT135 and the Grom is that this is 4 valves per cylinder, whereas the Grom is 2 valves per cylinder. And then talking about power, this makes about 11, or exactly 11.3 horsepower versus the Grom's 9.7. So a little more power with the Benelli, but torque, it goes the other way. This makes 7.4 foot-pounds of torque versus the Grom's 8 foot-pounds of torque. So more horsepower in the Benelli, but more torque in the Grom. And then as far as top speed goes, neither company publishes a top speed figure. but from what I can see online, some people are claiming this can do about 70 miles an hour. The Grom can do about 55. I know Case got it about 60 miles an hour, I think, on his test ride. So a little more top speed out of this bike, but that's something that I would love to test out if we ever get one of these in Boulder. Brakes are pretty similar on both the Benelli and the Grom. So up front, you're looking at a 220 millimeter disc with a dual piston caliper, and then going to the rear, 190 millimeter disc, single piston caliper. That's exactly the same on this Benelli and the Grom. But one difference is the wheelbase. You have a little bit longer wheelbase on the Benelli than you do on the Grom, so that should make this just a little bit more stable out on the road, but the difference is only about half an inch. So there's a good chance you won't even notice that out on the road. Now, I talked about the look of the forks before, and it's not only the silver color that makes these forks stand out on this bike. These are 41 millimeter inverted forks, and on the Grom you only get 31 millimeter forks. So this is a proper beefy fork on this motorcycle, and you can tell right when you walk up to it. It definitely looks beefier than it really should on a mini moto. I think that's one of the coolest parts about this bike. Non-adjustable, of course, but do you really expect to have adjustment on, you know, a budget mini moto like this? I think the answer is no. Coming to the rear, you do have a monoshock. It's kind of offset to the left side a little bit. That's adjustable for preload, same as the Grom. But yeah, the front forks are pretty impressive on the TNT135. All right, and now to just throw a leg over this bike and get an idea for how it feels to sit on. I can't ride it clearly. I feel like the seat might be just a little bit higher than the Grom. I feel like I'm sitting up just a little bit higher, but overall it feels pretty similar. Maybe a little bit more of a sporty riding position. I think my legs kick a little further back on this than they do on a Grom or a Monkey, but pretty comfortable. Big cushy seat. Don't think I'd have any issues there, and I like how my knees are fitting into this tank. It feels pretty good, but feels like a mini moto. 12-inch wheels, feels exactly how you'd expect one of these to feel. And then there's the price. $3,000 for this TNT135 right here, which comes in $400 below Honda's Grom, and I think that's pretty impressive. Might not sound like a ton of money, $400 difference, but in budget motorcycles like these, people are really shopping with their wallets. So any bit you can save, especially on a bike like this when it's probably going to be someone's first motorcycle, it's definitely good to see. And I think there's a lot of value here. You get a bigger motor than the Grom. You get better front end suspension than the Grom, or at least beefier. I don't know if I can say better without riding it. And you get a really cool look. And I think a lot of people look past this bike. A lot of people probably don't even know about this bike, have never heard of it. But if you're shopping for a mini moto, I definitely think this one is worth a look and a test ride because it's got some cool features on it. So there you go, the Benelli TNT135. I wish I had a Grom to put side by side, but that'd be a little hard to get into this building. So hopefully the little spec comparison will do good enough for you guys. Let me know down in the comments below, do you think that is an actual Grom killer? Curious to hear your thoughts. Would you pick that up over a Grom and save yourself 400 bucks? Thanks for watching. More content to come from the AIM Expo here in Vegas. Head on over to TFL-Studios so you don't miss any motorcycle content and any stories in the motorcycle world. We'll catch you in the next video. Thanks.